Hello everyone and welcome to another review of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Today we are taking a look at Season 7, Episode 10, The Apprentice. And, wow, what an episode. I mean, this episode was pretty crazy. Right off the bat, I am going to say apologies for the late upload today. Usually I'd like to have these things out before. Usually I record them on Sunday nights or Saturday afternoons or something, but I've had stuff on, so that has prevented me from recording on time. So I apologize for that. And then today on Monday, I've had other things going on. So I'm recording this at 5 in the evening. So I just now been sorry about the lateness of this review. But, wow. Looking to the characters involved, do you think this title would have been referring to Maul or Ahsoka? But no, it's not referring to either of them. It's referring to the fact that he's going to be Palpatine's new apprentice pretty soon, because we're running concurrent Sith at this point. As Obi-Wan says, Dooku is dead. We know how that happened. That happened in Revenge of the Sith, into the first act, sort of, kind of. So yeah, we're definitely parallel to Revenge of the Sith now. Obi-Wan's off hunting General Grievous, and we know how that. So, man, this episode is a really good episode, and I think this episode really as well of sort of kind of in a backwards way, maybe, that they kind of plan this episode as a movie. Instead of, these last 4 episodes were going to be a movie instead of 4 episodes, and then they got them chopped up into episodes. Consider this episode does not begin with an opening narration from Tom Kane the way every other episode of The Clone Wars does. You even hear the humming of Ahsoka's lightsabers fade in from the black. I am kind of led to believe that, that cut, that, there's not really going to be if they actually release this as a full-length film and and of course the 4 episodes on their own will probably be available, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get these 4 episodes cut together into a movie. That last shot of the last episode, I think it's the same beginning shot from this episode. And so, Maul says, "Why are you here?" It cuts to Ahsoka, and then that episode ends. This episode begins with Ahsoka. I think that's probably, if I'm not mistaken, that's probably the same shot, and then it just cuts back to Maul as he emerges from the shadows, and he goes, "Ahsoka, is it?" Yeah, that was poor Maul impression. But yeah, so I honestly really want to see there as a movie. Just for the way that, it's like, oh, well, the Clone Wars started with a movie, it could end with a movie. That's pretty cool. So, yeah. I honestly don't have too much to say about this episode. It was just solid all around. Almec is dead. That is not a surprise whatsoever. That's not really necessarily something I predicted, but it just makes sense. Like, oh, yep, not surprised there. Gunned down. Considering we didn't see him in Rebels or anything, I'm not surprised that he was gunned down by Saxon. It was cool to see him again. Like I said in the last episode, to see him again, and then it was nice to see him here. He's a character that's been on Clone Wars for a long time, so it was great to see them finally finish his story. Even though he's kind of been a minor player, but he's kind of been that antagonistic lackey sort of kind of villain character type. So it was good to see him finally finished off. I say it's not. I suppose it was something that's predicting. Again, because he's not in Rebels. Gar Saxon is in control in Rebels. So had Almec survived, I guess then he would have probably been the Imperial stooge instead of the Saxon clan. But oh well. So. So there's one shot in this episode that's just more than just one shot in this episode that's amazing, but one that really stuck out to me was Bo-Katan in the elevator shaft using her jetpack to keep it from crushing her. That was awesome. That was probably my favorite shot of the episode, and this episode has a lot like the Mandalorians surrounding Maul in the sewers as he's giving them their little pep talk. Of course, the shots of Ahsoka and Maul in the Mandalorian power, and the explosion that shatters the windows, but then the 2 Force users just subconsciously use the Force to deflect the glass around them so it doesn't affect anything, and Maul continues to hold out his hand. Great stuff. this episode is gorgeous with the lighting and everything. Even especially in going back to the elevator shaft that I was talking about a second ago, when Saxon and Bo-Katan have their brief little fisticuffs in there. There's shots that are maybe half a second long, but the light is so good. It's like, another reason why I want to see all these episodes put together in a movie. It's because it's just, you look at, here's the original Clone Wars movie here that began the series, ended the series. Wow. Just great way to look at the progression of the animation team at Lucasfilm. So, and then also, let's talk about that fight was, I don't have much to say about this episode that no one else has said, because it's just like, this is a solid, great, fantastic. The fight, I think it, in terms of over-the-topness and action, it's not the best fight Clone Wars has done. That's to go to another exact same throne room between Maul, Savage, but in terms of the fluidity of the animation and the way it was choreographed, this was the best fight in the entire series. And the reason for that is because they mocapped. They mocapped it with Ray Park, who was Maul's original actor in the Phantom Menace that did all those flip and stuff in the Phantom Menace, and so they actually had him back to do Maul here, and then they had, I can't remember her name, but they had someone come in to do Ahsoka, and then they mocap fight, which that's awesome, and it turned out to be really awesome. You can tell, it really does feel lifelike. One of the little details where Maul and Ahsoka start to circle each other after they've kind of been dueling for a minute. And Ahsoka twirls her blade as she says, "You're lucky Anakin didn't show up. You wouldn't last long with the way you're fighting." So that's that just the way the little twirl of her lightsaber in her hand to readjust her grip on it and change stance. That so fluid and so fast that's one of those. It's like, a real person really actually did that with some sort of prop and with the little ping pong balls on it that they used to mocap. So it was gorgeous. The choreography and everything, it was so great. I loved it. I loved every second of it. The only thing that would have made that fight better was if they put Duel of the Fates over. It's like, Kevin Kiner, why did you had your perfect opportunity there? I would have loved to have heard Kevin Kiner's version of Duel of the Fates and to orchestrate it the way that he always kind of does little riffs on the classic Williams themes. I would have loved to have heard that. Honestly, I don't really blame Williams for not doing this. He may have been told, no, don't do this. I don't know. But the fight between Rey and Kylo Ren in Episode 9 when they're on the Death Star 2 remains, that really, I've seen some fan edits where they put where they put Duel of the Fates in there. That scene could have really used it, and it would have been a great way to tie the entire saga together with the reuse of that music. You begin the 9-episode saga with Duel of the Fates, and then you end it with Duel of the Fates. That's just good thematic music. But it's like, I can see why they didn't do that. But I still think it would have fit there. This is another place with the Maul and Ahsoka fight. This is still kind of Maul in his, not his prime, but still, he's a force to be reckoned with. So it would have been great to use Duel of the Fates there, some sort of reorchestration of it. I would have loved to have heard that. I saw a fan edit on YouTube that it's like, again, why was this not used? It fits so perfectly. So, I don't know. That's really a nitpick. That's really a nitpick. It's not really a complaint. It's just I don't think it detracts from the episode. It's just something that would have made the episode better when this is already a fantastic episode, so I can't really complain. I'm just nitpicking at it. I have seen some people online complain about the fact that, oh no, Darth Maul loses another fight. It's like, well, that's kind of the point between this. That's kind of the point of this character, isn't it? It's that he always loses. He tries and tries, but no matter how hard he tries, he always fails. Basically everyone involved with the writing of Darth Maul at this point has called him Sisyphus from Greek mythology, where he rolls that boulder up the hill, and the second he gets it right up to the top, then he loses his grip and it falls all the way back down. He has to start over. That's Darth Maul in a nutshell. Sam Witwer's talked about that. Dave Filoni's talked about that. Everyone involved with Maul at this point has talked about that, and I think that's what makes him such a fascinating character. the fact that he keeps losing all these fights against these main characters, I don't think detracts from him as an intimidating villain, because we have so many other moments where he does show his smarts, where he shows his cunning, where he does show his brutality, and he does show that he is a competent swordsman. And he's a very deadly swordsman. I mean, they're not long, drawn-out fights, but there's a couple scenes that we see in the opening narration for some of Maul's stuff in Season 5, where he and Savage just tear through a couple Jedi Knights pretty easily. Of course, he kills the Inquisitors and Rebels. He's deadly. It's only the fact that a lot of these fights where Maul loses is because these are main characters that we know appeared later on, and so they can't die in these exact scenarios, like Obi-Wan in Episode 1. He killed Qui-Gon on that. Obi-Wan in Episode 1, Obi-Wan all throughout the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan in Rebels, Ahsoka. I suppose if we had gotten this episode when we would have originally been intended to get it, then maybe I would say that I wouldn't be saying this because of the way the content was released and everything. But the reason Ahsoka can't die here is because we know she pops up in Rebels, and she's still alive at the end of that show. Spoilers. But so of course she can't die here. But if we had gotten this episode the way originally, then I don't know. Maybe people wouldn't have a problem with it because it seemed like Maul lost a little more fair and square. But I think some people maybe take umbrage with the fact that they keep putting him into lightsaber fights with main characters of the series that we know go on elsewhere. So they're setting Maul up to fail, which I see where they're coming from. But at the same time, that's the point of Maul's character at this point. So that's kind of funny. But that I don't think that takes away from the fight at all. And also the fact that this is a side to Maul we haven't seen since Savage rescued him from Lotho Minor. I mean, he's worried. He's kind of panicking a little bit. He's distraught. He doesn't really know what's going to happen, but he knows what's going to happen. He has this sense of dread that he knows Palpatine's plan is about to come to fruition, and he knows that anyone that is on Palpatine's list is going to end up getting taken out. And Maul knows he's probably on that list. So that's why he's trying to secure as much power as he can here now, because he knows some dark days are ahead for the galaxy as a whole. And and his plan is to kill Anakin, which, looking at what happens, not a bad plan. Killing Anakin to stop Palpatine from using him as his enforcer, not a bad plan. It makes sense. Of course, Ahsoka doesn't like that because she's friends with Anakin, and as she says, your vision is flawed. I know him. From her point of view, so what I told you is true from a certain point of view. From her point of view, Anakin turning to the dark side off the table, it's an impossibility, never going to happen. Of course, those of us that have seen Revenge of the Sith, which is probably all of us, forget Revenge of the Sith, but the entire original trilogy, we know that's not a possibility. Things are about to get dicey. Man, just what a great episode. That's really kind of all I have to say about it. I don't. Some people I just don't think can be pleased. I think they're just always in a state of wanting to be unhappy with something, so they're gonna find whatever little bit they can to complain about, just so they get some sort of weird satisfaction from being unhappy about something. Like saying, "Oh, Maul loses all the fights he in. He's not an interesting character." Blah 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 blah. Even though 3 weeks ago they were probably saying they can't wait to see Maul again because he's such an interesting character. So yeah. I don't think I like this, just in where I'm ranking this in the 2 episodes of the Siege of Mandalore arc that we've gotten so far. I don't think I like this as much as last week's episode, but of course, last week's episode had, just like I said last week, just basically everything in Star Wars that I love jam-packed into one episode. So it's going to take a lot to really top that for me. There's a lot of people that like this episode more than the last one. I totally see where they're coming from, but just for a personal preference thing, for me, I really prefer last week's episode over this one, but that's not, again, I've been spending the last 15 minutes praising this episode, so it is no way bad. It may even be better than last week's episode. From an objective standpoint, I don't know. I can't look at it objectively, because last week's episode had Mandalorians and clone troopers and battle droids and lights and lightsabers and blasters and heartfelt emotions and all that stuff. So I don't know. Now, the last episode of the series, coming up in a week or so, that one may top this, the last week's episode. We'll have to see. But I don't really. There's a thing where I don't really. Another reason why I want this to be released as a movie is so that way I don't have to rank these episodes. To say, oh, well, what was the best episode out of this season? It's like, well, the Siege of Mandalore arc. Well, that's not one. It's like, they released it as a movie. Technically, I can call this a one. It's a one package, so I can put that over. I don't have to individually rank the 4 parts. So, yeah, really good episode. I cannot wait to see how everything ends. But at the I'm probably going to have the tissues ready. I'm so glad that they're not going to wait a week. That they're only going to make us wait like 3 days for the next episode to drop after this upcoming one for this week, because I don't think I'd be able to. I don't think I'd be able to make it a week, especially since next week's episode is probably going to end with Order 66, and then we're going to see the effects of that in episode 4 of the arc, and so in episode 12 of the season, in the last ever episode of Clone Wars. So yeah, I'm excited. I will see you guys. So about that, so I will. So a week from today, that last episode of Clone Wars is going to go up. So it's probably going to be another late upload for me, because I'm not going to do individual reviews for episode 11 and 12. I'm going to do them in one go. So next week, probably going to be another late upload on Monday. I may have to bump it to Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on when I get to reviewing it, because again, I want to do it in one batch. So stay tuned for that. But it's about to get real. So I'll see you guys then. Bye.